Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well. I really hope you're doing well. So, why is the footage for this video wider than usual? I'll explain why. So, anyway, you know how sometimes you know, I watch anime using a specific tool that I will not mention by name. A specific command line tool. It's ani-cli. To watch anime through the terminal because I don't want to fucking visit weird websites out there, so I just, stream it through my computer using a command line, which I think is safer in my opinion. But anyway, yeah, it's cool. It's a cool tool to use whenever the series that I want to watch isn't available on Crunchyroll. I would say isn't available on High Dive, but High Dive decided to not provide support for Portugal, so fuck High Dive. Right now, I'm only using Crunchyroll, and I canceled my Netflix subscription. I can't be bothered to pay for Netflix anymore. That shit's a fucking money sink. Anyway, it's cool, but another thing that's also cool is Anime 4K, which I've talked about a couple of times already. It's a real time upscaler to 4K. It works pretty well. Obviously, it's a little bit, not a little bit, it's definitely GPU intensive. But if you have a decent dedicated GPU, you can have a pretty interesting experience with this. Now, the thing is, I actually, in the past, I never actually had the shaders enable, or not so much enabled, the shaders present in the MPV config folder. I would always delete those ones, and then whenever I wanted to test it out, I would reapply them. And the reason why I did that is because the high-end shaders would get activated by default. So, if I didn't want to watch a series with the GLSL files to upskill the series, which honestly I would say most of the times that is the case. Most of the time I don't actually want to use this. I don't really use this for very specific instances, mostly just for testing purposes. And while there are actually some anime where I'm more than willing to use anime 4K just because I think the end result is really good, it's not all of them. Like some series that I watch, I feel like they're too blurry or too low res for me to realistically use this in a 4K monitor. So most of the time I just use it, and I don't want to fucking click Control O all the time whenever I want to watch something else in the normal resolution. So I usually just keep them, removed. But then I thought to myself, okay, hang on. This is a fucking MPV we're talking about. There's probably a very easy way to have it disabled by default. And turns out there actually is. I didn't fucking think about it, but then after I was like, you know what? Like, I'm not even joking. Like, literally, all it took me was like 10 seconds for me to figure out that there actually is a way, and I just had to, have the initiative to do it. Anyway, the example I'm going to use here is the Oshinoko ED. Now the thing is, the Oshinoko ED is interesting because they uploaded the ED on YouTube, and the resolution is actually in 21 by 9. Because the series in question, the series is 16 by 9, obviously, But the ED, when you watch it, when you watch every episode of Oshinoko, the ED always has black borders because it's rendered at 21 by 9. But on YouTube, they just decide, you know what, fuck it, we're not gonna add black borders. We're just gonna fucking upload the ED as it is in the aspect ratio that's rendered at, and that's cool because if you have a 21 by 9 monitor like I do, you can just put this on full screen and it'll fill in the entire screen, making the experience look wider. And that's cool, but one problem this does have is the fact that if you see here, it's 1080p. And the reason for why it's 1080p is because every single fucking episode of Oshinoko is rendered at 1080p. And so, when they took this ED, really all they did was just crop. Well, actually, they might not have even cropped it. They might have legitimately just used the footage that was exported for every episode of Oshinoko, but the actual resolution of the footage isn't 25.6 to 1080, because realistically they don't really need to export it to that resolution, because at the end of the day they're just gonna add black borders, and so really the only thing they need to preserve is the width. The width has to be 1920, but the actual height, they can fucking put it at like 812. And again, if you're watching this in a 1080p monitor, 16:9, it's fine. Like it's not gonna look blurry. But in this monitor, this is not this is not a 1080p 16:9 monitor. This is a 21:9 1080p as in width monitor. Sorry, not width, height. 1080p height monitor. So, this does look a little bit blurry here. But if I open this footage, which actually I'm not gonna open right here because I don't want this video to get taken down again. But anyway, I'm gonna open the footage. And if you check the footage right here, it is actually using the real-time upscaler. I can definitely tell because the footage does look sharper, but at the same time, I can definitely notice some artifacts. Like some of the things that I tend to notice, like the footage looking a little bit oily, like some of the outlines looking kind of jarring. I can notice here because again, this isn't really, like at the end of the day, the Anime 4K is more so meant to upscale 1080p to 4K, like lower resolutions, which in this case, it has a lower height. It's not 1080p, it's 812. And so, yeah, it doesn't have the best results. And this is an example of a series, for example, well, not series, of footage that I would just clear it out because honestly, even though this does look blurry, the artifacts are noticeable, and honestly, I would just watch it like this. I would just not really care. But to do that, I had to click Control O all the time because every time I open this, it'll have the shaders running all the time. So I always have to click Control O. But then I thought to myself, you know what? There has to be a way to not have this running by default. And turns out it is. There is a way. You know what the solution is? There it is. That's all you needed to do. That's all you fucking needed to do. And if you want to use the upscaler, just click Control 1, click Control 2, click Control 3, or click Control 4, because 4 has the best results. And yeah, so if there's a series that I want to watch in 4K, I'll enable it. But since most of the time I don't, I'll just keep it off. And honestly, I think this is a good compromise. And just like that, I'm going to leave this in the configuration. So every time I want to test this, I don't have to fucking re-add it again. Yeah. I think that's all I wanted to share.